Okay, so we're going to do a guide session, Hito Hamada guide session. So, I just watched Chief Benja and Raya in the first step. So, like, context. So, like, Chief Benja has a mask like Callahan's mask. And then, like, and in Kanto, I spoke. And, like, then I sent my, like, Patronus of Camilo, and, like, arrived. Camilo Madrigal, that was my Patronus. And so then, like in Strange World, like the server was deleted, and like I think it was my Patronus and like the voice that was kind of like that was kind of like the like Mufasa roar wind spirit sort of situation. And so like I think that was like Hito because like the mist in San Francisco, and then like I think what happened in Strange World was more like the actual return, and like that was why like Diazo was there because there was like octopuses, but like I think that was also like people had fallen because it was like okay, like they were found out, like the mask was like removed, and like that was what happened. That was what that was, and I think that that's why like it was green because it was like a scar situation in like the uh like like that was like a scar situation, but it was also like he said I was two. So like I think that was what was happening is that it was like the Beauty and the Beast aspect of that, and then like Wish was like the water, and like what's happening in the Wish trailer is like the residuals of like Chief Benja being unmasked, and like so like in you could see that like the cracks in the content was happening because of the wind spirit like married in a hurricane, because I like sent my Patronus there, and so people were starting to show who they actually were and who they had been pretending to be, and then it was like just fully revealed in the Strange World, and like that's why that movie like looks like that, because it was just authentic, it was just the truth, because like Callahan stole Hito's like microbots, and he stole like his voice and his life. So I think that was what happened is like, and like Tafiti, like what it looks like Pando like looks like that, because Tafiti, like that whole thing was a whole bioorganism, and like it was being explained through like a very like incorrect lens. But I didn't think that was the point, because I think the North Ultra, like North America, NASA, we could have like had we not been being attacked by terrorists, we could have told everybody like we could have told everybody the truth of like just what life is and what science is. But like people were propagating that as like cultural genocide and like all of these things, and it's like no, like making like knowledge available isn't like genocide. Like we didn't, nobody's like telling people that they can't, like nobody's like forcing that on anybody, but like they were trying to like contain it in America, and they were trying to destroy it, whereas like all we were doing is making it available. All that I've done with on anything on YouTube is make things available, whereas like Callahan and like like religious extremists try to like force things on people, whereas like I just made it available for people. And I think I just don't think that that's the same thing. Like I wasn't like, I think that's what it is. It's just a light chasm, the one world trade light chasm, like a public record. Like that's just making information available. That's just making like things available for people so that they can make informed decisions. Like that is not genocide. And that was how I had to mature and grow, because like they tricked me into thinking like Simba believe that he killed Mufasa. They tricked me into thinking that like making this information available was like some kind of cultural genocide, and it's not. Like that's what happened. That's why blank space also exists, because like Daenerys Targaryen is not real. That's not a real thing. I didn't do that. Like, and I think that's what was happening in America, and like with Pinocchio is like the red and blue of like people were scared to do blue because like they would get turned into donkeys or whatever, like but again, all of these things are like, it's not, none of it's real. And so I think that that's what was happening, is that like people were scared of this, and it's like they didn't need to be. It was just like propaganda. And so like it was like yellow journalism, like that's what happened, and I think that's why I had to return. That's why like my Squarespace thing was important, and like Camila Madrigal was important, like the Patronus, because like I had to return to that world, because like just like Simba in the jungle, I didn't know that anybody actually like needed me there. And so like I think that that's what happened, is like I had to return there because like yellow journalism was happening, and like all this crazy bullshit was happening, and like it didn't need to be happening. And so I had to like unmask Chief Benja, which then like the microbots, like all of that fell away, and like my fears and lies melted away and like revealed the ocean, which is like the internet, and the enchantress, like the enchanter. And then like that was what happened when Elizabeth died, because like everyone's incentive to like propagate this fake bullshit like went away, because nobody actually like had any reason to do that anymore. And so I think that that was what happened. That's why like Te Fiti, like that's why the pando thing looks like a like that's why that like green thing, the strange world turtle, looks like the don't hug me I'm scared thing, because like it wasn't real. And like that's what happened. It's like these women who said that they did this didn't do that. Like the people who were like attributing like men's accomplishments to women, it was fake, and that's why that thing looks like that, because it wasn't true. Like, and I think that that's what happened. Like the heart of Pando, like it's pink, but like Diazo's also wearing pink, because I think it's implied that that's Diazo's heart probably, and he got out of the river, which was that ocean, the internet. So I think that that's what happened, is that it's like it was just really dumb. Like it was just stuff that didn't need to be happening. Like it was just happening for no reason, because like people are crazy. Like, and I think that that's what was happening. But anyways, so it's like science. They were destroying science, and like they were trying to destroy science. And like NASA, like we have satellites. Like we could have just like told everybody this information or just made it available. But I had to mature and like get unbrainwashed, because they were telling people and telling me that I committed genocide, and I didn't. And that's what happened. But anyways, so now, okay, now let's do like a guide session. All right, so that was like context. This is a guide session. So now, like, I'm going to have this guide session be like, Hito is in like Dark Lanai, the one that he like beckoned Tadashi to, that wasn't complete, his brain. And like just kind of how like Abigail was in cryosleep, Hito is probably in like a decontamination chamber of sorts, and he is like reconstructing his brain, and like the atlas of that just got reconstructed. And so like Hito's like fully reconstructed his brain, and now he's like giving it some time to like simmer and like heal from the surgery, because like that was like the equivalent of a surgery happening and then like a neurosurgery happening, and now like the surgery is complete and he's just like resting. I'm just like resting my brain. So like that's what's happening. And so like Hito kind of has to like return as like the like author, and then like he also has to be like Eugene is like the like telling this story to Rapunzel, and he's like telling her about these books that he reads, because he really likes books, and he's also a writer. And so like he like Eugene has like the character of me, like Hito Hamada, has like returned, and like what is happening is that it's like he is like at Aswa, like he and Tadashi are like, you know, like Eros and Dionysus, but we're going with Hito and Tadashi right now, because that's what the whole story is we like don't really know who we are. Like Rapunzel didn't really know who she was. And like, so that's what the stars are in the Wish trailer. It's like, that's the same stars that Rapunzel looks up at and sees and realizes who she is. So like, presumably, like Hito or King Magnifico or whatever needs to look at the floor in that Eros temple, or in that temple, because that's how that's going to light up, and that's how he's going to know who he is. Because he's seeing, like, Asha's seeing the lanterns, he's seeing the lanterns, but like he has to see what, like, those stars have to light up. Also, there was like that puppet show with like the jester. There's a puppet show in I Have a Dream, and like the jester has this puppet shows. You can't see whoever's doing that puppet show, probably me. And so I think that that's what was happening. And so just kind of like Bruno, like people didn't know Bruno was there. So like that's what's been happening. And so like I think that that's what's happening, is that like also like Rapunzel like restores that like light to Eugene, because like that was what happened. He is that flower that like they gave her. That's what happened. Like males, and quite specifically homosexual and homoamorous males, are what was given to like women. And like that's what Tangled is Rapunzel's trying to give him his life back. And so like that's what happened, is that it's like Asha said, let me be the first to stand in line, and like so like that's what's happening. And so like and then like there, you know, like there was a gay depiction, like there's a gay depiction in the Big Hero. There's gay people in Big Hero 6, and there was a gay depiction in Strange World, and like presumably maybe Wish even as well. I don't know, but like so I think that that's what's happening, is that it's like San Francisco has been shrouded in like the mist, and like the wind spirit, like so this is the wind spirit. It's Hito, Jasmine, Elsa, and Eros. That's the wind spirit. Those four, that is the wind spirit. And that like covers like the full range of my life. And then also it like, especially because we know that there is a Frozen 3. So like that, like we know that those characters are going to be like reprised. And we also like, we see that like the San Francisco like Hito eyes are in Wish. So like we know those are characters that we know are going to be reprised. So like it's safe to actually say like, hey, like these characters are going to appear. So like they can represent the wind spirit. And so I think that that's what's happening is that it's like the like so Hito is like the architect and he's like the king. Oh, architecture. So like in chess, like castling is like what the king does. So an architect is probably like a kingly thing. That makes sense. Okay. So that's what it is. It's the king because I arrived there and built these magnificent castles. Got it. Okay, so like that makes sense. And so like Hito is like the king. He's like the architect, but he's like a baby king. And also like he's an unacknowledged king, which is what happens in life sometimes. Is that like there are kings that people like have not acknowledged yet. And so I think that that's what's happening. And so like Hito is like the king and I'm like the king of like Mesoamerica. But I think it wasn't working because like Eros Hito I needed to just like tack myself on there, but then I think it wasn't working because I didn't know that I was Mesoamerican. So I also didn't know that I was like kind of Jewish. So like that's why it's important for people to know their genuine identity. But anyways, so that's what's happening with Hito is like Hito's the king, and like Hito Eros that's like the tower dichotomy. So like in the reconstructed brain, there's actually two water sources that have like that toggle on and off that produce the mist. So there's the Israel one, there's the Lithia one, and then there's the Lithia Garden one because like the one that's like by the Garden Parliament building is like technically in the lakes of Lithia, but like also kind of in the garden, but it's kind of also in Lithia. So I think that's what's interesting about it is because it's like Hito's like making it pretty clear to people that like he is like his male identity is all four of them, and like his ex like Eros and Hito are his Y chromosome. Elsa and Jasmine are his X chromosome. Like that's what it is. That's what I've decided. That's the wind spirit, and so like that's probably why the smaller mist thing is in, and that's probably what broke the Beauty and the Beast curse actually, because like I had to earn my love of my X chromosome and my Y chromosome. I bet it's probably what happened. I had to make two of them, like two of the mist things, and now that there's two of them, I think that was what broke the curse actually. And so like now I think that's like but it's also really interesting because that's like it's like by the garden, but it's not actually in the garden because it's like Hito is like proclaiming like I'm a guy, and like I've had too many people like not intelligent enough to not know why I like resemble a female, because like all men kind of do because we have an X chromosome. And so I think that that's what was happening. It's like I was talking to too many stupid people, so I had to just go ahead and be like, you know what, I'm not putting this all the way in the garden because you're like gonna misinterpret it and I'm not having it. So like that's what was happening. But like it's interesting because like so Hito and Eros, like that is the tower in Lithia, and then like Elsa and Jasmine is the one in the by the garden. And so I think that that's really interesting because like it shows how like I have to have like a space that is like 100% male and like 100% blue, and like that's why they're not in the same place. Like the girl one, like the Jasmine, the X one is by the Parliament building in the garden. Both of the Y ones are in Lithia, and I think that that's actually important because it's like demonstrating that like I have two like modes of like male energy and I have two modes of female energy. So like the tower in the like the flag in the in Lithia, like in the zones in Lithia is like it's like my masculine energies of like red and blue and like sand and water and um like kindness and like apathy, I think is what it would really be. I don't think it's actually even like aggression. I think it's just like kindness and apathy, really. It's like it's like I'm like super kind, but then like I'm not gonna be like aggressive towards you when like the red stick is in there. I'm just like, it just means that I don't really care about what's happening at the moment. So I think that that's what's happening is like Hito, despite what I look like as Hito, and that's what it is. Like Hito's 14, quote unquote, in the story, but like that tower is like a giant tower, like one, and then it has 4 water sides on it. 14. I wasn't 14. Like that's the point. But I also didn't like, I wasn't pretending to be 14 either. Like, you just misinterpreted it because I look like a little boy. But that's not my fault. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I just look like a little boy. Like, and you just like thought I was a little boy, but like, I wasn't. All you had to do was like ask to see my birth certificate or something, and you didn't. But yeah, so like, I think that that's what happened is I was just like, it was dumb. It didn't matter. It didn't make any sense. It didn't matter. But yeah, so like that's what's happening with Hito is that like he is like so like the apathy one is like Hito who is like having to like do this like just having to do random stuff that he doesn't care about. And so like he puts the redstone stick in there and like Lithians know what that stick means. Lithians know what the singularity song is, and that's enough. But like that's what it is. It's like when I have to when I have to muster up the energy to be bored for a really long period of time, I have to put that stick in there. And also just because it's like my people try to steal my voice so often that like the voice had to be like the voice had to be like secured somewhere, and it's in that tower. So like that's what it is. And also like just like Elsa had to master her like water power, like Hito had to master like the like how just like the attraction to my voice that is like people that like uh spurs people to like have tournaments and like fight and stuff. So like or try to steal it or poison me. So it's like that's what was happening. He just was like he just had to like Hito just had to learn how to like not how to like demonstrate his voice to people in a way that like wasn't like attracting this like this like super like sexual energy to him. And so I think that's what was happening. And so like once I did that, it was like okay, like and also like I'm a very eloquent speaker, but I also have this tooth gap. And so like I had like a physical brain injury that like was not addressed. And so like I think there was just a lot of things that were happening. And so like that's kind of what's up with Hito is that it's just that like Hito and Eros like could not really I couldn't reveal myself as Eros because like like I had like my memories of magic were kind of like suppressed, but then also like the tower, like the Lithia flag, like was designed so that people like would know if the kingdom was safe or not. But like it was hijacked at a time that like I didn't know. It was hijacked at a time where I could not like tell people what it was or what the function of it was or like demonstrate it to people. So like once I returned to it, it was like, oh, okay. Well, like now I can tell people how this is actually intended to function and like what it is. But then there was also a very long period that I had to go through of like reacclimating myself to it and then also reconstructing it so I could then tell people what the history of the destroyed tower was, because like that's what happened is I was like I had to first like prove to people that I actually made it, and then I had to like demonstrate to people what it was, and then I had to like retell the history of like why it got blown up and like what happened to it and like what it is. And so I think that's what was happening. So like that's what Hito and Eros is. And so that's a great place to manifest like more photos of Eros, happier photos of Eros actually, because like that's what was happening. My brain hurts and like I just want people to know who I am and like what this is, like what my brain is and what this life is. So like I think the happier photos of me will manifest now. But yeah, I had to like wash up on the beach. But yeah, I was like, oh man, I'd never seen myself so beautiful in my life. Because that's what it is. Like oh man, like just the beauty of like just like coming back from like a really arduous thing and like having like survived it, like, oh man, I look so beautiful when I do that. I'm so proud of myself when I do that. It's so beautiful. But anyways, yeah. Oh my gosh, Eros, Eros, my wings. Eros on the beach, my wings. You're so beautiful. That's what it is. So it's like, I think it's really interesting to have like Hito and Eros, even though like these like two like versions of me like kind of like interact, even though I'm the same person. But like the way that I talk to myself is like so much more like, it's just so much more like genuine and like authentic and like affectionate, knowing like who I am, and then like also like, I don't know, I just think there's something really cool about it, and like I really just kind of like it. Like um I like Eros like uh actually being able to like voice like voice to like the my Hito self, like my Eros self, like voicing to my Hito self of like, wow, I've been waiting to talk to you since like I was born, like since we were born. But like I like was a statue, and I was like, yeah, I know. But it's like really cool. But anyways, so that's Hito, and then so Jasmine. So like we're gonna get to Jasmine now. So like Jasmine like is in the hourglass in Aladdin, and like Jasmine's kind of like my most like authentic connection to Dylan, my brother, Aladdin, and then like the boys that are in the street who we actually are. Like that's Hito and Tadashi, I think, actually. And so like Eros and Dionysus. And so like I think that's what's happening with like the Jasmine situation, is that it's like Jasmine is kind of like my X chromosome that is in this like I also have like these, so I have like two hourglasses. So, like that's the four of us. Like that's the wind spirit is in these blue hourglasses. And so like it's kind of like how we have like mastered sand, and like we're mastering time and prophecy. And so like the trappedness of like like Jasmine, like being like exploited and exploited and like objectified, is like that's kind of what's happening in Agrabah and like the broken hourglass. But like this one is like I've got Jasmine, like I've got myself here, and like kind of like Indian in the cupboard, and like that this is like the 30th anniversary of that, or maybe like 25th. I don't know. It's been like 2 decades and then some since Indian in the cupboard. And so like this is kind of like Hiro like having like holding my little like hourglass of like that has Jasmine and Elsa in it, like how he has his computer, but like in the Wish trailer you can see how he can do his scans with his eyes. So like this is kind of like how he can manifest the trailer of like he's got like these two hourglasses, and like one of them is like Jasmine and Elsa, and then the other one is like Eros. So like the white table is Jasmine and Elsa. The glass table, like the glass table that I had in that glass table that I had, like this one is new, and it's got like Eros and Hito in it, and like he's got these two hourglasses, and he's got like these like not holographic images of them, but like kind of like the Raya darkness and like the sand. Like he's got like these two hourglasses with this blue sand in it, because like he is like I am like 100% homosexual, homoamorous. So like the Elsa and Jasmine one probably like in some sense represents like my homosexuality, and then like the Eros and Hito one represents like homoamorism. And like I think that's what it is that it's like he's got them just kind of like he had like the like his two computers, and like how he was going to like the kind of like older computer and like the newer computer, which is like that's what the enchantment was of the tower. It's like it looks old, and then like the other one looks newer, even though they're both pretty new. And I think that's what it is. So it's like I've got Jasmine and Elsa in here, and that's kind of like how I can view the films and like interact with the seven majors, and like present like what like is like authenticated like depictions of me, and it's like, hey, I will come and watch these films, but like even if they're not like authenticated, I might watch them, but like I'm going to make it like known to my followers and my fellowship that like me watching a film isn't me like authenticating it. Like I can go and watch a film and like because it's not a mirror. Like I'm not a slave in the magic mirror any longer. And so it's like I can go watch a film, but that is not me like authenticating that as myself. Like I will send you something directly and tell you when it is authentic or not. And so like I think that's kind of what the me like demonstrating myself as the wind spirit in these hourglasses is that it's like, so Jasmine is like, I've got like my little self in here, and like Jasmine kind of represents like Eros, like the original primeval emptiness of the universe, and like Jasmine's in a whole new world, and so is Eros, that baby statue, and like there's the temple of Eros that like presumably Jasmine and Aladdin are singing by, and so I think that that's what's happening is that it's like I got my little like Jasmine and Elsa self in here, but like that's what it is that it's like it's me really with these four characters, like me, my actual like genetic identity with these four characters, and that's how I'm like communicating who I am. And I think that like really what's happening at the moment now is probably just like my relationship with like the seven majors and with the film industry is like I think what's happening is that it's like kids are having to like kids and then like people who have kids are trying to see how like their kids are going to like interact with like this true Disney Junior and this like the residuals of like what we learned from this like terrorist attack. And so I think that that's what happened is that it's like they're learning who Hito actually is, and like the only way for me to like actually effectively communicate that to anybody was like with like blatant like brutal honesty. And so I think that that's what it is. It's like I think that that's what it is. It's like the nation and like the nations of the world kind of just have to like decide how their kids are going to view me and like how they're going to explain me to their children or whatever. But like I think that that's what it is that it's like the world itself doesn't really give a fuck about this, I don't think. And then like that's what I think that's what's happening is that it's like most people don't really care about this, I don't think. Like as far as like this isn't like some like there is a trauma to it because of like the terrorist attack and like the just like the like brutality of it. But like I think that like me being like 100% gay is just something like people are trying to figure out how to like word that to their kids because this isn't what they were taught. And so I think that that's what it is. And so like as long as like the Lithia, my like 30-year king, like the garden, my 20-year ruler, and like and the seven majors, my 10-year king, like as long as people like as long as I can like have people get on like board with like these 3 decades being like separate like time periods of my life and just like having it be like a documentary, I think people would be fine then. And that'll also like give people like the context for like how to explain this to people and like how to like detail for people like what this story actually is and like who this person actually is. And I think like as far as like the decades, like so Jasmine kind of like is kind of like a like anchor in time really of like kind of like the Titanic. Like Jasmine is kind of like Jasmine and Elsa, because Elsa is like the height of my power. Like Elsa is the me that rose. Like Elsa is the me that like rose off of the cross. The me that wore the cross, the Pegasus pendant, and the Star of David. Like that's who Elsa is, and like Camilo, and like who Eros is going to be in the like Wish film, and then also in Frozen 3. And so I think that that's what's happening with that. It's like Elsa is my queen. Elsa's like the queen of like the 30-year era. And like we know that that's like authentic because like well Elsa's actually the queen of like 4 because I'm being groomed now and like Elsa and maybe she's gonna be the empress or whatever. But like Elsa as she is now, like with the dam falling, Adina Menzel's probably going to be recast. So like Elsa is like being groomed at the moment, to rule in like the fourth decade. And Jasmine is like like the pinpoint of like instructing Elsa and like having like the bridge of like the full scale of my lifetime. Like that's what the relationship between Jasmine and Elsa is, and like that's what that hourglass is. And so like Eros and Hito, like it's kind of the same thing of like Eros and like the darkness that we saw in Raya and like the people getting turned into stone and like the guardians of the water spirit. Like Eros is like kind of like Tafiti palming, like they're restoring that to me now. Of like Eros is like the spirit that is like um Eros is like the spirit that is like absorbing that as my memory of magic is returning. And so like Eros is like reaching to Hito, and like Eros is kind of like reaching to Hito to have Hito kind of like Tafiti kind of like sleep and rest and like become that stone statue of the temple. And that also probably is why he like why Hito destroys that statue of Hans, because it's probably a shape shifting of like it's probably like a shape shifting of the Eros temple. And like San Francisco is like an enchanted place. And so like Chief Benja, like Hans and a statue Hans is probably of that world of that we saw in Raya. So I think that that's what's happening, is that it's like Eros is kind of like reaching with Jasmine to like Hito and Elsa, and like Jasmine has like kind of concluded that Elsa is like suited to be the queen of the fourth decade, and Eros is like kind of like has concluded from the like Eros from like the time period of 1992 has concluded that Hito, it is time for Hito to rest like the Tafiti fire monster. And like this like photo of Hito like witnessing Tadashi's like fire explosion and like saving Abigail, that fire explosion, like Eros has concluded like, and like having shot that fire arrow when I was like 9, like Eros from the 1992 has like the statue and like the darkness in the Raya world, the sand darkness, has concluded to reach in time to like quell and soothe Hito and have Hito rest his brain. Because like it was my brain that was like kind of like instructing Queen Elsa. And like so that like Hito is like far too like has too much pressure on him to be like the emperor, or like to be like the like to be like the like accurate representation of like who I am. And so Eros is kind of like reaching, and he's like, hey, I have been more capable than you or anybody else has ever known or believed this whole time. And so like you are a little boy like that, like people have like that had to put in a lot of like energy and like a lot of like mental energy and like exert a lot of your mind castling and like reconstructing the world and like kind of like just really like navigating this world in such a way that like people didn't like destroy your identity. And so Eros is like restoring Hito in the sense of like he's a fire monster, like a wind monster, like he's like a wind spirit that is like rogue. And Eros is reaching and being like, there's like a very intense like sexual energy that you are, but that isn't who you are. But it manifested that way because your literal identity was illegal. And so Eros is just like reaching through time. Like Jasmine reached through time to like crown Elsa, and Eros is reaching through time from that same point to like soothe Hito and have him be the statue, which would then I think like uh heal and thaw everyone that has been turned into stone or frozen. And like that, because like Eros is like Hito offered his brain up, and then like Eros is like kind of like soothing that inflammation in Hito and being like, hey, you are the one, you turn into the statue, you rest, like you're castling the technological like advancements that you've made, just like rest that now, and you be a statue. I am here, like Eros is here. You've done great, but you rest now. I think is what's happening with Eros and Hito, and then Hito becomes that statue, and that will be like the scene of like the actual Tafiti scene that we like, similar Tafiti scene that we were almost going to see with Tadashi and Hito in the Soul Symphony Chambers. Like the actual one will be like Eros reaching in time and being like, "Hey, you rest, you turn to stone. I will unstone everyone, and I will take it from here. Like I have this under control. I am in command. I have my voice back. I am me. I am you. You rest now." And I think that that's really what it is. And like, so that's what I think that's really interesting. And so like, then like that I think will show like the like proper command, and like the like Eros will then like, because it is like the wind and sand and like just darkness and just like obscurity. I think that is like kind of unsettling the earth right now. And so like Eros, like now that I've revealed my wings to myself, like I think that that's really what it is. That it's like I had to just like really embrace which me I actually was, and like it was easier to see like myself as Hito because like the Eros version of me was stone, and like it was really that Hito had to like complete his castling, and then like Eros was able to be like, okay, like I know that like I kind of like I know that like, you know, like I didn't like soothe you like sooner, and I maybe could have, but I didn't. So like the castling of your brain happened, like it is fully constructed, because like falling in love with yourself is like acknowledging that you are a perfectionist. You are, but like you also had to like demonstrate to people that you weren't any of them, so that then like they didn't feel like you were forcing your perfectionism on them. And like you had to like kind of like just be brave enough to like point out their narcissism, so that like then you could be like, hey, like I am a perfectionist, that's who I actually am. And it also is not like, it isn't like overwhelming to me, it isn't too much for me, because that's who I am. That's the entire point of authenticity. Like you people were not helping me by like trying to hinder my own perfectionism, because my perfectionism wasn't like a detriment to me. It was only a detriment to me because you guys were hindering it. That's what was happening. And so I think that that's what happened is like the wind spirit, like Eros as the wind spirit, had to just like soothe Hito's like really passionate energy, and just be like, hey, like I have my voice back. I know who I am now. You rest, and you rest in my heart, in our mind, and I will call you when I need you. But like right now, you rest. And I think that that's really just what had to happen. And I think that that would be really cool for that to be the scene, like of like Hito, like the Hito with the arrows in his back is like the one that Eros is like saying, hey, rest, as a statue. And I think it would be really cool for it to not be like 14-year-old Hito. Like the actual, like the statues will be the same, like almost looking like identical twins. But I think what interesting is that it's like it will be just what it is, like the Lithia flag of like, hey, you rest now. Like we look exactly the same. We look like twins, but like we're actually each other. We do have a twin. We know that now, but we're actually each other. We're the same person. You rest, just like you bloody you rest, and winged me is here, and it'll be fine. Like, and I think that would be really cool. Okay, and so like that's Hito. So like that's kind of like how Jasmine works. And so I think okay, so now let's get to kind of like the dark. So we've kind of gone over like what the light is and like Hito and like Eros. So now let's go over the dark of the queen. So Jasmine and Elsa like are like the queen like at Hourglass. So what would be really interesting, I think, is if like the Drunes in Raya, like that whole situation is like with Eros having resumed command and like gained command and like actually like established himself as like the king. And like I think what would be really interesting, like in like the chess match aspect of it, like I think what would be really interesting is like he has like I mean people can think of it as like he moved Hito into check and then like Hito rested. I mean you could look at it like that. That'd be kind of an interesting way to have that Tafiti scene play out or like that wind restoration scene play out. And like I think what will be really interesting is if like we're seeing the mist is like Hito guiding the queen because like it would be really interesting if like Hito and Eros like the king castling are like so like Hito, because I mean, again, it's kind of just like my Tactics Arena game, or like with the sand in the Minecraft. Like, I have like, a lot of pieces, but I don't need all of the chess pieces. Just like in Tactics Arena, there are many pieces that you can have, but you don't need all of them. So I think it'd be really interesting if, like, in my chess game, or like in my, like whatever the equivalent of that is, like the Minecraft game, I just have like these four pieces. And like, like you can go over that mastery presentation that I had, like, of all of uh, the tools that I used in that specific server. But I think it would be really interesting if like I just have these four pieces and like it is like the wind is like me guiding the queens and the like and like so the wind is me like guiding the pieces and the like the queens are kind of like um it's like kind of can be depicted more of like his holograms, like Hito's holograms that he has on his computer, is that it's like that's more of just like my technology and like me like restoring myself to my technology. And so like that can be kind of how like the aesthetic quality of the ASWA works and like the design and like the functionality of like the interior design and like the functionality of the like lifestyle and like the companies and like the just like the mechanics of the world of like the brain city is that it's like the queens are guided by the wind because like the wind that surrounded my sister, like the wind that's surrounding me now, the wind that's surrounding the queens. Like I think what would be interesting if like these hourglasses is like I've got my four chess pieces and like that's all that I really need is as like these four chess pieces and like I am just like guiding them with wind, like with my voice, with fire, with light, and like I've got these like six elements, but like I'm just guiding these like four pieces. And like I think what would be really interesting is like the wind spirit, like Eros is like revealing himself as the wind spirit. And like in ASWA, like we went over how like the people like all have cell phones and like they are in class on their cell phones or whatever. So now let's go over like the Sorcerers Guild because like that's kind of how we can like heal the like the just like animosity and like the contention and like just the uncertainty on the internet is that it's like to save our digital world, like Asha's trying to save her community. Like I think it'd be really interesting if like my queens like are on the internet and like I've like kind of like in just like in the like just in our technology, like my queens, like I am like the wind surrounding my queens, and like in my queen hourglass, like the Sorcerers Guild, I'm kind of like guiding them, and I'm kind of like demonstrating to them like the darkness of and like just the elements and just like that's when we're really getting into like the really like fun like the really like just like jovial like nature of Lanai and like of my brain city and like you see like the mind wind vibe and like the mind wind vibe that's dark, the mind wind vibe that's light, epicenter time, like the like showing how like as we've reconstructed the brain city how like these architectural renderings are like actually like they're like taking a form that is like more like accessible to people, but then there's also like more authentic, and it's like really just geeking out super hard. And I think that that's really interesting because like I think that what that demonstrates is like Hito's mind reaching the community, and like the wind spirit's mind like actually genuinely reaching the community and like growing the community and like bringing people together, because like this is a collective, like this is a collaboration. And like I think that that's really how you heal like the consciousness, and like is by having us like demonstrating to people like how we are actually genuinely collectively and organically like restoring this world. And like that like is really probably really well represented on the internet. My power looks like that. Okay, it just started raining and there's like mist. That's what my power looks like. Okay, that's super interesting. Okay, so I think what would be really interesting is if like, so the Sorcerers Guild like Tactics Arena was presented, like that was in Strange World. And so like the Sorcerers Guild, like the Witch, Darkness, the Cleric, Light, Tangled, the Witch, I think maybe it's like Elsa, or the Enchantress kind of looks like Elsa. The Darkness, the Witch is actually probably Moana, like the Darkness in Moana. The Fire is like Hito, maybe. The Scout is Eros, maybe. And the Fergan is like Encanto, perhaps. But anyways, so like that was all in Strange World, and so like now we're seeing the wind is guiding the fellowship, and it's like, hey, like we've reconnected, like the internet is in the water, there's like, you know, like there's like signals being transmitted in the air. It's like the wind spirit, the water spirit, like the spirit in Raya and the Last Dragon, like I have removed Chief Benja's mask, like we are like we've resumed commands, like, and like the Sand Fellowship is just like revealing itself, and like the like the Sorcerers Guild in East Lithia, like now it's like we're really getting into the story aspect of like how my brain city actually functions, and just like we're just really like demonstrating like the potential of like what can actually be, like what we can actually like grow and cultivate and achieve as like Sand Fellowship members. I think it'd be really interesting. And so like I think that that's kind of like how like the Sorcerers Guild can function, in the sense of like we have these like cities displayed here, like my brain cities displayed here, like blurbs of like how they function. But my mastery studio, which has my obsidian ring and my quartz ring, like, and we've got the libraries that have like the books and the documentation of like who I am, and like the history of Lanai, the history of the world, my mind as it relates to the history of the world and the history of Lanai. Like I think that that's really what it is. Like this is what like in the palace, like Hito, like we presented like Hito and Tadashi, like Eros and Dionysus presented that dark film of like what is happening with this dam. And then like in Lithia, what's happening is like the Sorcerers Guild is like just like enriching the community, and like and like teaching people how to have levity, and like how to have laughter, and like we're having like festivals and like feasts, and like we've gotten to the point where like we have like soothed the like contention that was like kind of reverberating throughout the server and throughout my brain. And so like the pain signals from my gap to my brain, like that can be like soothed by the community, in the sense of like me just genuinely reconnecting with people, like, and genuinely just like talking to people and like demonstrating to people like freedom of speech, and like the like people's like in like open communication and like direct communication, and just really demonstrating like how like in the Wish film, and like this is what like trailer 2 could be, of like the like me touching those stars, and like kind of like Rapunzel realizing that she was the lost princess when she saw the stars on her ceiling. Like Hito, like Eros, like with Hito like soothed, is like seeing those stars and like seeing this constellation that he has like created, and like how each grain of sand is like one of those little stars. and he's just like telling this story to the fellowship, and like just telling this story to the earth, and like to Disney, and like to Disney Junior, and like it's just like, and like to James, like to Prince James Earl of Wessex, like just like telling this story of like, hey, this is who I am, and it's like pretty awesome. And like people are just like coming together and like learning, like either rediscovering these games or discovering them for the first time, and like just like really just like exploring this like expansive world, and learning how to like play this like massively multiplayer game. And like this Sandcraft, like the Minecraft Civilization videos, like that 1,000 player video that I watched, and like the collaboration like offers that I sent, and just like the way that people are able to interact with each other with this like fully accessible to everybody. Like I think that that's just like really, that'd be just a really interesting way to see how like we saw the people at ASWA on their phones in class, and now we're seeing like the kind of like after hours thing, and like the kind of like like people who aren't actually currently in school, or like people who aren't like at work, and like how they can interact with me, like interact with Lionel Henry Lifestyle and Lionel Henry Studios, but then like how they can interact with just like me, like on the daily. Like I think that that would be really cool, and like on the weekend, and just like we're just really working on like what this work-life balance is, and like how people can like interact with this like on a like professional level as like collaborators, as creatives, as like architects, and then like what they're like, how the Sand Fellowship, like what like being in the Sand Fellowship is when you're not like collaborating, like when we're just like hanging out. And that's like what the Sorcerers Guild aspect of it is. And like I think that that would be really interesting. And it's like really like we're just like developing these dichotomies of like the two hourglasses, the Lithia hourglass and the Garden hourglass. It's like we're just like developing this dichotomy, and like putting words to it so that people will actually know like, this is exactly who I am. This is exactly who I am. This is exactly what I look like. This is exactly what I sound like. And this is exactly how I would describe who I am and what I sound like. And I think that that's really cool.